The Kirky B Show with percussionist Taku
Hey,
Hirano.
it's the Cookie B Show, Kurt Biscara, Cookie B, and I'm here with the one and only Taku Hirano.
Hey, hey.
My brother. How are you, man?
I'm
Try
doing
and keep
well.
up. That's what his name stands for. Everyone's going, no, that's a Japanese name. No, man, it's try and keep up. That's what it's about.
Good to see you,
So
bro.
you are a man always on the move. I had to get you on a day off. You are out on tour with
With Leanne Rhymes, she's kind of perpetually on tour. I joined her on her quote unquote tour last May of 2022, and she has just kind of perpetually been on tour for a year and a half. What that means actually is that we just kind of go out for like extended weekends, like over the last year and a half. We've just been out. And
wow.
so that's actually been really nice because then I get to go home at like pretty much every week. So
That's great. And I'm
yeah,
so happy that you're able to do the show and I caught you on a day off.
yeah. Actually, I think I had about a week off, and then so I just flew into Dallas about an hour, well, a couple hours ago. I just got into my hotel room about an hour ago, and yeah, I'm off until tomorrow. We it's about a 2 hour drive from Dallas to the gig tomorrow. So we'll probably leave, in time for sound check, like late morning. And then
Great.
yeah.
That's
And
awesome.
then yeah.
But man, I just want to dive into the fact that you are one of the hot in demand touring percussionists. You're always out on tour. It seems like, you work every year. And I know that there are so many musicians that don't have that opportunity as much. And you seem to have kept that level for yourself very, very high, and being able to go out year after year and play with all these different artists. And like, let's just go back 5 years. Who have you been out on tour with the past 5 years?
Well, 3 of those years was COVID.
Right. But weren't
Right.
you out during COVID?
No. Okay. 5 years ago is 2018. So that was Fleetwood Mac. So Fleetwood
Okay.
Mac went out on tour 2018, 2019. So I think I
Right.
hit rehearsals. Oh gosh. I guess I hit rehearsals I think in the spring, and we rehearsed for 3 months, and then we hit the road um in the fall, something like that. We rehearsed in the summer. It's all kind of a blur. But
Right.
yeah, so I was out on tour with Fleetwood Mac 2018 and most of 2019, and we wrapped the tour uh I think right before Thanksgiving. So the tour itself lasted over a year, almost a year and a half. And then, yeah, top of 2020, I was home for the holidays. Top of 2020, you and I ended up doing the Music Airs thing, right?
Yes,
In
we did.
2020? Yes. And
Yeah, 2020.
that was the
Uh,
tribute to Aerosmith.
yeah, tribute to Aerosmith.
Yep. So for your
And the
listeners
world
who
fell
don't,
apart.
yes. So for the listeners who don't know, Music Cares is this great organization that takes care of musicians. And so they offer things like dental care and health care and whatnot. And so it is a an organization that is I believe it's just in the States. There's only in the US, but they do this gigantic fundraiser during Grammys week in Los Angeles. Usually happens the night before the Grammy telecast, I
Right.
think.
Yeah, it
And
is before.
and every year they do a tribute to some artist or band. And the year that Kirky B and I did it at the top of 2020 was a tribute to Aerosmith. And so Kurt was the drummer, I was the percussionist, and we had a blast. So
Yeah.
that brought me into 2020, and that actually reunited me with Leanne Rhymes. I'd worked with Leanne way back, like
That's right. She was on the show, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So I feel like I worked with Leanne like maybe in 2000 or 2000, no, 2002. I worked with Leanne, which predates my time with Fleetwood Mac because I was with Fleetwood Mac starting in '03. Anyway, so that's how I reunited with Leanne, and based off of yours and my time backing her up for that Aerosmith thing, they once COVID hit a few months later, they had already reached out to me to virtually play on some of her material that she was working on. It was still pretty rough stuff. But once lockdown happened, I was living in New York at the time, and yeah, I was tracking stuff for her then. And so, fast forward, once we started getting out of lockdown, she was heading back out on the road and kind of doing a semi plugged unplugged type of thing with a small band. And rather than go full on drums, she wanted to do like a percussion guitar, who her MD plays guitar and bass type of trio to back her up.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. So then
she has the kind of voice that could support that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm doing kind of a hybrid kit for that gig.
Yeah, I saw that. I keep seeing the incarnations of the kit, and I'm thinking, wait a second, man, you're going to go full tilt drummer very, very soon.
And that's what kind of happened with I did one other thing right past COVID. I ended up doing a gig where I only play cajon, and that was for the Hawaiian ukulele artist Jake Shimabukuro. And so right out of COVID, right out of lockdown, I went on tour with Jake, and we did like 30 dates, and it was just ukulele, bass, and percussion, and that was literally me on a cajon for the most of the time. And
so then you're just a busy percussionist all the time, man. I see all your posts on social media, and that's wonderful. But let's go backwards. Let's go back to, you were born in Japan or born here in the States?
Born in Japan, but I moved to the States when I was like 3 months old. My dad had a business transfer. He was in the textile industry, and they transferred us to California. So I grew up in California since I was a baby.
Right. And in Fresno, right?
In Fresno.
Yep, not too far from my hometown, Santa Maria.
Yeah, not really. You're on the coast. I'm right in the smack. Literally, Fresno is like if you looked at like the shape of California on a map and you put a pin right in that's direct center. Fresno. That's Fresno.
And then you go to the coastline, and then that's Santa Maria.
That's you. Yeah. Yeah. So I was like, Fresno's kind of like in the foothills underneath, like this, Yosemite, basically.
Yeah. So growing up, I mean, I know Fresno and God, especially Santa Maria. I mean, those are towns that just really don't poop out, if you will, percussion, drums, music for that matter. You know, they're kind of working man's towns. A lot of field workers. You know, into meat and dairy and produce and things like that. So how did you get into percussion?
You know, believe it or not, there is an amazing percussion teacher in Fresno, and she's still there to this day. And when I started playing percussion in 5th grade, that was kind of right around the time she was starting to teach, like in the Fresno Unified School District system. And so she actually was like teaching percussion in the school system.
Wow, that's great.
Right when she started was when I started, and I was about 9 years old. And I started like probably in the first week of classes of 5th grade in the school band, in the school orchestra. And she actually came in and taught at like a percussion ensemble thing. And then I also studied with her privately. So like, and immediately in that first year of school and that first year of studying with her privately, like she was like, nope, we're going to get you to audition. I couldn't even read. Well, I could read music because I'd taken 2 years of private instruction on piano from ages 7 to 9. So I could read rhythms. And yeah, like within my first couple months of studying percussion, she's like, no, we're entering you into, the city, county honor band and honor orchestra, and you're going to audition, and this is the audition material. We're gonna shed it, and you're going to audition, and then in like a month from now, and I'll just so you get, she was like, just so you can like learn the process, and I got in. Like I got like 3rd chair percussion, having played only like maybe a month or something like that. And I never really read rhythms and stuff, but I was already like, boom. Then all of a sudden I was like in the back of a children's orchestra
That's
and
great, man.
concert band.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and then I just went from there. So I started in fifth grade studying concert snare drum, marimba, timpani, and drum set with her at age 9. And so marimba was kind of my first instrument, and it kind of made sense because I had played 2 years of piano before that. So,
Right.
yeah.
So yeah, usually entering in the percussion world, most, it seems, gravitate towards drums because for whatever reason. But
Yeah.
you stayed with percussion, which, for all intents and purposes, I mean, I'm saying this 2020 hindsight, I wish I would have learned orchestral percussion. I feel limited playing drum set only.
Yeah,
So it's a great
I
thing.
think I did drum set as well, but honestly, like as I got older, I was I think I just was better at percussion. There's always like a better drummer than me, and when you're a kid, it's kind of like you like doing stuff that you're good at, and I was
Right.
always kind of like second or third best drummer, you know. And so like I enjoyed it, but yeah, I think I just really, and then also I had really good percussion teachers. So this woman, Brenda Myers in Fresno, she's still there. She has now, you know, she has this like youth percussion thing. We got the beat dot
Oh,
org,
very
I
cool.
think. Yeah. And so now she has like all these kids from like elementary school through high school age percussion students. Now it's like an after school thing that she does, and like they're playing like Afro-Cuban percussion and Brazilian percussion and orchestral percussion and drum set and mallets. And like
Wow.
she
So
has
have
them
you
like
have you been there since your successes and been her star student?
I have not worked with her students, unfortunately. I've been back to Fresno only maybe once to do a drum clinic, and that's like back
Oh
at Fresno
man.
State.
Well,
But
you should definitely make a pilgrimage back to your
yeah,
teacher.
but she's got like I mean, her kids are killing, like it's pretty amazing. Like I know there's one of her students more recently, she now has moved to LA and is the drummer for Olivia Rodrigo, I think,
Oh wow.
or someone like that. I'll have to look it up. I can't even remember. I think her name's Haley, but
Nice.
she's like in LA, like drumming for like a major pop artist. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
That's
which is like
incredible.
really cool. Yeah,
That's incredible.
yep. So, but then also I was saying that I had really good percussion teachers. My family, like how we were transferred from Japan to Fresno for basically from age 3 months old through sixth grade. My so then at that point, my family got transferred to Hong Kong. And so I had 2 years of percussion with Brenda in Fresno. And then I transferred to Hong Kong starting in seventh grade. And while I was going to Hong Kong International School for seventh, eighth, ninth, and 10th grade, I studied with a principal percussionist and the principal timpanist of the Hong Kong Philharmonic. So then
Wow.
that
So
was
I
just
have to
like,
ask the obvious question. Do you speak
yeah,
both Cantonese and Japanese?
no. And now when I lived in Hong Kong, it was a British colony, and I went to basically an American school.
Oh,
So
okay.
so it's like around a bunch of expat kids,
Oh, okay.
all over the world, but studying like in a US type of high school system. And the two teachers I studied with were American in terms of percussion that worked with the symphony. Yeah, but and then so that those 4 years was just like training towards Juilliard, Juilliard, Juilliard.
Right. But
Yeah,
you did not go to Juilliard. You ended up going to Berkeley, correct, in Boston?
I did. And I think that moving back to Fresno after 4 years of Hong Kong, we always knew that we were going to only be in Hong Kong for 4 years. Then I moved back to Fresno for 11th and 12th grade, and I went to a school of the arts there that ended up having a really great jazz program and a Latin jazz band. So I ended up, that's when I first started studying. I was still playing drum set. Again, not the best drummer when I even moved back to the States. But then I really got into like Afro-Cuban and Afro-Brazilian percussion, and
Yeah.
the fact that they had a Latin jazz band and a salsa band in the high school, like fast tracked me into like really getting into that. And I was so burnt out after 4 years of like intensive concert percussion. And I took Berklee's like 5 week summer program after my junior year of high school just to check it out. And that's when I was kind of like, okay, this is like something that I can possibly do, instead of trying to like revisit my Tony Cerrone etudes and trying to getting into Juilliard and stuff like that. So yeah, so I ended up going to Berklee after checking it out in high school and liking the teachers and digging the
So do you have any regret for not going to Juilliard and pursuing the pop world instead?
I don't. One, because my 4 years at Berklee, well, first of all, I wasn't, when I applied for Berklee, they had concert percussion, which I was burned out on as a principal instrument, jazz vibraphone, which I couldn't play at all for sure. I didn't even have a concept of that, or drum set. And so I auditioned on drum set and got in on drum set, even though, again, I definitely wasn't the best drummer coming into Berklee, but I got accepted. And then once I got to Berklee, my freshman year was when Giovanni Hidalgo started teaching there. And so Giovanni's 4 years at Berklee coincided with my 4 years at Berklee. So I got 4 years of private instruction with Giovanni. So
Wow.
it was like, yeah, I had heard about Giovanni back then, pre-YouTube, pre-everything. We were just like, I heard the legend of this amazing conguero, Giovanni Hidalgo. I didn't even really know what he looked like. I had access to one grainy VHS tape of him playing, and I didn't, and I had recordings of him. And then all of a sudden, my second semester of my freshman year, it's like I find out he's coming to Berklee to teach.
Wow. Yeah, for years I'd heard about this guy named Giovanni. People would only refer to him as Giovanni, and I thought, who's this Giovanni guy? Is he Italian? What is he? And finally, I was on tour I forgot who I was on tour with, and they're like, "Hey man, Cricky B, you got to check out this percussionist named Giovanni." I'm like, "Oh my God, yes, please! I've been hearing about him." And he put in the VHS tape. That's how long ago this was, and he melted my face. I was just like, "Oh my God, no wonder why everyone just freaks over this guy." He was insane. It was almost like watching a human octopus, if you will.
Yeah.
And just like precision and speed and perfect everything. It was unbelievable.
Back then, like, even like telling drummers I was studying with Giovanni and they never heard of him, I was like, imagine like Dennis Chambers on congas. It was kind of like my thing, because especially then, like when I went to Berklee in the early 90s and I was studying with Giovanni, like that was kind of like when Dennis was like, getting really known outside of like what he started in. And so like that's when he started playing with like John Scofield and stuff like that, and he was touring with Scofield, and so people were like really like digging on Dennis. I was like, yeah, so if you're like really into Dennis, then it's like, imagine that on congas. That's what I'm studying.
Right. And what were those 4 years during the 90s, right? Or late 90s?
Early 90s, 91 to 95.
Oh, 91 to 95. Nice. Yep. Yeah, that was that decade of the 90s was just prime for music.
It was. And then getting to Berklee, like, I came in as a freshman with little John Roberts, who was like, he came in I came in my freshman year, I was still 17. I think he was 18. He's a year older than me, but he had already like toured with like DJ Jazzy Jeff and Fresh Prince, like, and then came to Berklee, like he was already like touring. Yeah. Abe Laborio Jr. was just graduating, so he was a senior or just like finishing up when I was coming in. John Blackwell came in my sophomore year. He came in as a freshman.
I miss him, man.
Yeah. So he was in the dorms. God, Who else was there? Johnny Rab was an upperclassman, so he was like a couple years older than me. Who else? Adonis Rose came in my second year. Adonis now he's from New Orleans, and he is the leader of the New Orleans Jazz Orchestra. But he after Berkeley he went on to play with Wynton Marsalis.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
incredible.
So there's so
I'm going
many
to
good
hop around a
players.
bit on this interview, but you said New Orleans. Now,
Yeah.
there's someone very close to you who you're married to, actually, from New
Yeah.
Orleans. Let's
Yes.
talk about her a little bit, because we see her every day.
Yeah. So my wife, Arthel Neville, we met in New Orleans. She is a newscaster,
Please give her my
journalist.
love. I haven't seen her in
I
forever.
will. I
Please tell her
will.
I said hey.
Yes.
Arthel.
She's a journalist, and she also a lot of people know her through her years in entertainment news. She had a show on E Entertainment for a few years, and then she launched the entertainment show Extra. She was the original host of Extra.
Right.
But she comes from a very storied musical family in New Orleans. Her father, Art Neville, was the founder and band leader of the Meters. And then that was in the 70s. And then in the 80s, he started a band with his brothers, the Neville brothers, which went on to win Grammys and whatnot.
So you are married into music royalty.
I am.
I am. When we all think of that funk and that gumbo, there's only one band and one band only, and it's the Meters.
Yeah, definitely. So it was really cool, like just to, I mean, we split our time between LA and New Orleans. So I was just in New Orleans, and so we were able to see like her uncle Cyril Neville, who's the singer and percussionist, and we just saw him 2 nights ago, on his birthday, and
wow,
yeah, so it was really cool.
So being married into this musical family, I mean, this royalty, if you will, I mean, God, man, you must hear some incredible stories. You must be able to just sit down with them and groove and just have a great time, eat great food. Is that usually the experience, or is it more low key?
It is. It's low key, but over the years that we've been together, yes, there's been so many treasured moments, like especially when like the Neville brothers were still touring and stuff, or like the Funky Meters, which was kind of the later incarnation of the Meters, was touring when her father was still alive. He passed away in 2019, and but yeah, leading up to that, we would like it was really cool, especially like being in New Orleans during Jazz Fest, which normally happens at the end of April and the top of May, and then so the whole city turns into like just one giant concert stage, like for 2 weeks, and it's really cool just to be around family at that time, and and an extended family for like Arthel's cousin, who was like her brother Ivan Neville, who his band Dumpsta Funk, they're still going strong. Just saw them perform last week, or a few days ago actually.
Ivan is the keyboard player that played with Keith Richards, right?
Yes, and that is Aaron Neville's son, oldest son, and so he and my wife grew up together, so they're kind of like brother and sister. And then so Ivan's band Dumpsta Funk also features my brother-in-law, Arthel's younger brother Ian, on guitar. And so there's like this whole like second generation of Nevilles and stuff like that. So like all that to say, like it's really cool just to be hanging out with like family and extended family, and in musical situations as well as family situations. Yeah.
Well, I mean, again, a family of musical royalty. How cool is that?
Yeah.
And so, getting back to going into school and in touring, I know for me, I was one of very few Asian Filipinos doing what we do.
Yeah.
And God, I could count on one hand, us Asians that do what we do. And I'm just curious, when you entered Berkeley and you're getting out there and starting to do tours and sessions and stuff like that, were you like walking in the studio and going into tours and hotels going, wait a second, I'm the only Japanese dude on the gig. What's up?
That's still the case. First of all, now that we're on this subject, I do have to say, Kurt, that like you've been an inspiration to me. Like, you
Oh
know,
man, thank you.
you're a few years older than me, but so like you were already on the scene, and I was like, who is this Asian guy that I'm seeing? Like, yeah, I'm going looking in Modern Drummer magazine and seeing ads with you in it. And I was like, who is this guy? And like I got to meet him one day. And I remember it was just like at a NAM show, probably in the
It
late
was at an
80s.
AM show. I remember it.
you're
Yeah.
you're just walking and I saw you. I was like, oh my God, that's him. I have to go introduce myself to him. So I don't think I was even really on the scene yet or anything. I could have still even been like a Berkeley student, and I introduced myself to you. I was like, so it was very much like
Oh, dude, come on. No, I mean, because I had to ask, because it's just it's a rarity, but now I feel like the whole Asian culture is starting to come up in terms of the entertainment industry, in terms of movies and music. And I mean, dude, BTS, you could throw a rock and someone, me, is into BTS, and I hear BTS down the street. There's these teenage girls that are always blasting it, and you walk into a store and you hear BTS,
yeah,
and then so this whole K-pop thing, and a friend of mine, he's the guitar player in Here Lies Love, which is the on
yeah,
Broadway musical right now.
yeah,
That,
yeah. I have a friend who's a producer of that. She's half Filipina dancer based in New York, and she's the
oh, okay, yeah,
yeah.
she probably knows my friend Joe Cruz, who's the guitar player in the show.
Oh, okay, awesome. Yeah, I'm sure she does.
Yeah.
I'm sure she does. Yeah. Yeah. But what's it like? I mean, it's still the case. I mean, like even now on the Leanne Rhymes gig, it's just like I'm definitely the only Asian guy. There's um the the band leader slash guitarist, musical director, he's white. The bassist is black. They're both out of Nashville, based in Nashville. And
Yeah.
then there's me, Asian dude.
Right. Right.
I think that's uh Leanne likes that a lot. That it's a multicultural band.
Yeah.
Um, I am definitely like usually the only Asian person on stage, not necessarily on a tour, but on stage. Fleetwood Mac, same thing. Um, in fact, like almost every gig I think that I've done, I'm the only Asian guy on the stage, like as a backing musician
Yeah.
or yeah,
Same
like
here.
yeah. I'm trying to think about it. It's like yeah, Whitney Houston, Isaac Hayes, Lionel Richie, Fleetwood Mac, Bette Midler, John Mayer. Yeah, I'm trying to think like any and every gig I've done, like on
Right.
tour.
And they're
Yeah.
all massive gigs. Let's
Yeah.
not make that mistake. And before we go any further,
Yeah.
as everyone's watching this, they're going to want to follow you on social media. So how can the watchers out there follow you, and
Uh
where?
I'm not on TikTok, but I'm on Instagram. I'm on it's talk at Taku Hirano at TAKUHIRANO. And I do have a YouTube channel. I think that is youtube.com/Taku Percussion, TAKU
Great.
Percussion. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. And just in wrapping up, being
Yeah.
Asian and being a percussionist and have done all these gigs, there must be a certain feeling of pride, um, to be able
There
to
is.
to
Yeah.
be able to do such a thing, because it's few and far between. Like you said, I mean, we could count each other on one hand, I think. But I know, for example, when I see you, I'm just ecstatic. It's like, wow, there's my boy up there doing it. And because it's so rare, it's
Yeah.
it's just so rare. And then when we did the Aerosmith thing together, that was just like, I had a grin from ear to ear.
I
Just to
mean,
be able to do that with you. That
how
was
cool was that?
so much
Right.
fun.
It's
Way
like that.
cool.
Yeah. Yeah. That just doesn't happen. Yeah, it just doesn't happen. So, and um, yeah, I mean, I think I am filled with pride. I don't, I think that it's like I'm kind of used to it now. I'm just like, yeah, it's me on the gig, you know. So
Yeah,
I don't necessarily feel I don't know if how many like Asian Americans really know like that we're there and we're back there and really doing it, you know, as far as especially as sidemen. So it's like I
right.
think that I think that more people should know, and hopefully that can be inspiring as well, you know.
Yeah, well, hopefully this podcast could spread that light a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, a few interviews ago, I interviewed a hot up and coming drummer, Vinny Aguas. He's a
Okay.
young 20-year-old Filipino drummer who's killing it. And when the lead singer of Journey is not touring, he has Vinny playing drums for him. So, and he's just killing it. And I was like, dude, you're 20 years old and you're playing with the lead singer of Journey and you're touring and what's that like? And then right when I asked him that, I'm like, oh yeah, I was 20 touring Morris Day and the Time. So I'd answer my own question, but it was just so exciting to ask him that question. So in wrapping up, I'm sure there's a lot of young percussionists that are coming up and they're like, oh my God, I love Taku. What would you say to them with them coming into this business, especially now, 2023, going into 2024, post lockdown, post COVID, the war in the Gaza Strip, the world basically just crumbling, yet we still have our music to hang on to. What would you suggest to these young up and coming players that want to be like you?
To be like me is to be a working musician, and some gigs are big, some gigs aren't. And so don't ever really lose sight of why you started playing, don't lose the joy. But also, if you want to work and be working, it's also do your homework, you know. And for me, it was like be proficient at every style, be able to read music, be able to listen and do your homework on that end as well. Like appreciate all styles of music, um, because for me, it's always been about being bulletproof. It's about there's so few percussion openings that you can't um, be the one to have to turn down a gig because you can't do XYZ, you know. Um, and I don't really love faking it till you make it. Why not just do the homework and actually feel like confident and proficient to a certain
Yeah,
degree, you know?
exactly.
So that's what I would say.
Man, those are just super words of wisdom. And Taku, thanks for taking the time out of your busy touring schedule and doing this with me.
Of course,
The
my
Cookie Bee
pleasure.
Show. And man, very exciting. I'm so happy you did this. And I shall see you when you get home, brother. Gonna go have a
Yes.
coffee.
Yes, let's do that.
All right. Everybody, thank you so much for watching the Cookie Bee Show. We'll see you next time.